Okay, we're driving down, we're on our way home, and if you've seen some of our other videos, we've talked about the holographic universe, we've talked about the mind-body, the types of foods and healthy things that you need to do. Besides putting good things into your body, you need to be putting good things into your brain. So Brett, let's talk a little bit more about incorporating the Living Vision Board and how thoughts are things.
Okay, so we all know that everything around us was once a thought. The houses, the road, the car I'm driving right now, the clothes I'm wearing, everything at one point in time was just a thought. If you look at that from the aspect of a particle physicist, the aspect of the point of view of a particle physicist, they'll call that a probability amplitude. It was always a probability, but it wasn't amplified until you had the thought. So when these thoughts start to stack up, just like anything else, it begins to create more mass and more mass and more mass. And this is where we can get into the idea that reality is made in agreement. So the more people that agree upon a certain way of reality, the more that mass collects and that reality takes form. It's also true whenever there's a breakthrough, like this Living Vision Board, for instance, that oftentimes it might be really hard for people to absorb it at first, but then soon after a while, some of the folks who are out there on the fringes and the cutting edge we can receive it and pick it up, and once it begins to gain momentum, it becomes commonplace. And yeah, this is how thoughts become things. And if we have 50,000 thoughts a day, we know that what we focus on expands in our life. So whenever we put that attention, reality begins to organize around it, and that's the expectations that we have for our lives, and those are the events that then take place. So as we shift our expectations, shift our focus, interrupt our pattern, the more frequently we can do all of that, the more we can shift our thoughts, the more we can create new things. And there's been wonderful people who have said things along the lines of, as we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. When that's exactly where that falls into that piece right there. So the idea is, again, all the materials of the universe are made from the same building blocks, thoughts. And our objective right now with this next evolution in human consciousness is to learn how to consciously and competently organize those thoughts to create the types of things that we would like to see in the world.
That's a big task. How are we going to start?
Well, again, I believe that a lot of it comes down to being what I call a butterfly warrior. You have a commitment to your transformation, and the transformation piece is the butterfly. The commitment is the warrior. We're not talking about a battle here. We're talking about integrity. We're talking about accountability. We're talking about making a decision and sticking to it.
You mean I don't get to wear my armor?
Well, you can wear your armor if you'd like, Ross.
Yeah. You never let me wear it in public, though. I don't get it. It's really cool.
Well, it's with the wings that I have a challenge with. But at any rate, so becoming a person who's committed to that type of transformation also means that you've got to break free from the literal addiction we have to the known. And that's a chemical addiction. It's as real as quitting smoking. It's as real as quitting drinking or heroin or anything along those lines, because it means letting go of who we are. It's just like the caterpillar. The imaginal cell in the caterpillar is introducing the blueprint of the butterfly, and although the butterfly may be a much more dynamic and beautiful and graceful creature, the caterpillar is pretty much settled and secure with who they are. So letting go of that for the unknown is challenging for people. So that's the first step, is having that commitment to say, you know what, I know there's a better world out there, but I've got to be willing to let go of who I am to make that happen. And I think a large body of information needs to be brought to the common man and woman about what resistance is. Resistance to change and chemical addiction. As an example, we have our internal resistance, which is the physiological or the emotional connection to, let's say, cigarette smoking. But that also manifests in the external world. So someone who may decide to quit smoking on Tuesday, Wednesday, they may end up backing their car into a light post and denting their car, because the outside world is attempting now to create a situation that gives them permission to go back to smoking again. So they got to recognize that, wow, my internal dialogue then gets projected out into this field of awareness. So if we take that and look at it with our life, moving from, letting go of one part of who we are in our life, or even looking at our society or as our country, there's going to be some ripples, and there's going to be some attempts to hold on to the known, and we got to be committed to be able to move through that. So that's a big piece right there. I'd say the next piece is recognizing that everything is holographic, it's dynamic, it's flowing, it's a creative space that we live in, it's recreational, it's recreational, and if there is any battlefield, if there's any playground, it's consciousness. And that whenever we have any challenge with a person, place, or thing, it's literally an aspect of ourself that we have that challenge with. And when we can live from that point of view, when we can live from that reference, it makes it a lot easier to move through and absorb and integrate a larger version of who we are into our life. So take all of those pieces and then break that down into the simple chunks of language. It's all language. It's all a story. We're meaning-making machines. So the more we can create a new meaning that we can fall back on as our reference point, a larger story that has to do with the totality of who we are instead of the limited aspect of our identity in the moment, the more we can do that, the more we step into unity consciousness. And that's one of the reasons why I'm such a firm believer in the holographic vision board, because again, it incorporates everything that we know about scientific aspects of human evolution, neuroplasticity. It's all of the teachings we get from the spiritual traditions. It's all of the peak performance technologies woven into one system that creates that constant self-referral that's coming from unity, it's coming from love, it's about collaboration, it's about cooperation, and allows us to take this knowledge that thoughts are things and to literally apply it in a very conscious and competent way to create change in our own life, whether it's financial or relationships or just the way we feel, and also at the same exact time be emitting new thoughts out into the collective consciousness, so we're contributing to the shift of mass consciousness as a whole. And that's a really neat opportunity that we have as a society right now, is to take ourselves from the information age into the implementation age. It's really time that we take everything we've learned and apply it. Talking about stuff is wonderful, and I think we've had enough time to educate ourselves, but there comes a point where it almost becomes a form of ego masturbation, where we've really got to transcend what we know and apply it to who we are. And as we understand that, we can take the idea of what we are and apply what we know to create the biggest and most brilliant version of who we want to become that we can even imagine.